And the people of North Korea remain defiant. Despite the escalating war of words with the U.S., thousands rallied for the regime in Pyongyang yesterday. North Koreans protested the latest UN sanctions as well as President Trump's fire and fury comment. Ben Tracy is following the reaction from Beijing.
It's now clear that North Korea is using President Trump's fire and fury comments as well as the new UN sanctions to rally its people. That was on full display Wednesday in the middle of North Korea's capital. Tens of thousands of people packed the main square of Pyongyang for a mass rally orchestrated by the North Korean regime. Speakers said the U.S. will face a miserable and wretched fate, while marchers carried signs that read, "Let's become bullets and bombs defending Kim Jong-un." This man said, "I will become the nuclear warhead of ICBM to smash down the U.S. mainland, the nest of evils." North Korea has now launched more than a dozen missiles just this year and continues to threaten to turn the capital of South Korea into a sea of fire. Today, South Korea's defense chiefs vowed strong retaliation if North Korea continues to provoke, an unusual warning against mere threats rather than an actual attack. Russia has also now weighed in and is calling on the United States to remain calm and not provoke North Korea to what it calls dangerous actions. Anne-Marie?
Ben Tracy in Beijing. Thank you so much, Ben. For more now on this, I want to bring in Adam Mount. He's in Washington. He's also a senior fellow for the Center for American Progress. Adam, thanks a lot for joining us. First, let's talk about this North Korean threat to launch missiles toward Guam. We've seen the test missiles already, but what we've seen are missiles that kind of go up and go back down. They land in the ocean. We're extrapolating from that just what North Korea's capabilities are. But do they have the capability to attack Guam? It is pretty close.
Yeah, it's important to recognize that this is a very different type of threat. This would not be a missile test. In fact, I think this is a new strategic vocabulary for North Korea. It's the first time that I'm aware of that they have postured their missiles for coercive purposes. What they've said in a statement that they wanted is the end of U.S. B-1B flights near South Korea. We do those flights routinely for deterrence and reassurance purposes, and North Korea is essentially trying to get the United States to back down to end that practice. They do have the capability to launch these missile strikes. In their KCNA statement, they specified a specific missile, the Hwasong-12. That's a single-stage IRBM that they first tested in May successfully, and they've got the capability to carry it out.
So South Korea is just over the border, sworn enemy of North Korea, many American service members there. Why the focus on Guam as opposed to South Korea?
That's a good question, and that's part of why this is such an unusual statement for North Korea. Notice that North Korea has no trouble at all threatening the mainland U.S. with destruction and annihilation. They do it all the time. They threaten to kill American civilians. That's not what this threat was. What they said that they would do is launch 4 HS-12s 30 to 40 kilometers off the coast of Guam. That would be a non-lethal strike. So it's clearly for coercive purposes. They regularly threaten the U.S. homeland and South Korea. South Korea is certainly not off the hook, but this is a targeted threat for a very specific purpose.
So when it comes to containing North Korea's ambitions, their nuclear ambitions, we've seen sanctions. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is over in that area of the world, and he's talked openly about wanting to have conversations and the desire to pursue diplomacy as a remedy. But can North Korea be contained without what the president said, without the fire and the fury, whether it's in words or in actions?
I believe that's very much our best option. It's important to recognize that in the run-up to North Korea achieving the ability to threaten the continental United States, when they were still testing these ICBMs, when they had not yet tested an ICBM, there may have been a window of opportunity where a strike could have prevented that from happening. You don't want to strike after they've achieved that capability. That's illogical. So our best chance now is to contain the regime, to deter them over the long run. This means reinvesting in American alliances, prioritizing reassurance, bolstering the American military presence on the peninsula. I think there's a strong case to be made for additional ground forces, missile defense, anti-submarine forces to combat their sophisticated new diesel submarines. I expect these kinds of measures to be discussed at high levels. But we should recognize that really the clock running out, this window of opportunity is closed, and we're living in a different world now where we've got to live with and manage and contain and deter a nuclear North Korea for the long run.
Oh, that's very interesting. We have seen now Russia and China sign on to new UN sanctions. That is something positive, I suppose. How important is the role that Russia and China, the role that those two countries play in containing North Korea?
Well, the Trump administration has gone back and forth on how it views the role of China. For many, many months, Mr. Trump said that China was doing a great deal behind closed doors, that they were helping us contain the North Korean threat. More recently, he's said in all capital letters that they've done nothing to help. The more that he moves away from this unrealistic reliance on China, the better. China is simply not going to apply enough pressure on North Korea to coerce them back to the negotiating table or certainly to denuclearize. So, as I said, we're in this for the long run. So, the point about Russia is an important one. Russia in the past has been sort of passively cooperative with respect to North Korea. In recent months, their volume of trade has gone up, and they've been more obstructionist at the UN. We really do need to keep an eye on them and make sure that they're not moving towards increased recognition of the North Korean regime.
Interesting. So you were not heartened by the news that China and Russia signed on to these new sanctions?
Well, it was an accomplishment to achieve those UN sanctions. It's the latest in a long line of sanctions. Part of the trouble is those sanctions don't have an effect unless they're enforced. We didn't enforce the last round of sanctions that were accomplished at the end of the Obama administration. So it's going to take a real diplomatic effort to make sure these sanctions actually bite and have an effect.
Adam Mount, pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.